The moment that little boy stepped into the church, I knew my life was about to collapse. The church bells were still echoing when my world shattered for the second time that day. I clutched my daughter's tiny hand, her black dress too heavy for her small frame, when the doors creaked open. The air froze. Murmurs burst like fire through the pews. My daughter looked up at me, her little fingers shaking against mine. And then my father-in-law's voice cut the silence like a knife. "So this is it, your husband's other child." Gasps erupted. The room tilted beneath me. I nearly fell, but clutched my daughter tighter. Whispers hissed through the crowd. He betrayed her. That poor girl has no place now. Every eye pinned me, some dripping pity, others sharpened with cruelty. Then my sister-in-law's voice struck like venom. "Your daughter won't get a single cent. The fortune belongs to him now." Her finger stabbed the air toward the boy. My daughter's eyes filled with tears. She clung to me, trembling, as her world collapsed before she could even understand why. My throat locked. How could I fight when even I didn't understand what was happening? The boy stood frozen, clutching his jacket, not defiant, but terrified. And for a fleeting second, despite my rage, my heart cracked. Because he wasn't the enemy, but what he represented could destroy us. Then came a cough, a deliberate clearing of the throat. The lawyer stepped forward, his black folder clutched tight. "Enough," he commanded. "Before you condemn anyone, there's something you need to hear." The church fell silent. My blood thundered in my ears as he looked at me, at my daughter, at the boy. He opened the folder slowly, the air thick with dread. And then, there's another will. A shockwave tore through the church. Gasps, chairs creaked, hands flew to mouths. I held my daughter close, shaking, desperate for answers. Was this my salvation or my destruction? Because one thing was certain. This little boy had just changed everything. "What would you have done if you were in my place?" The silence after his words was heavier than the coffin in front of us. I felt every stare pressing down on me, squeezing the air from my lungs. My daughter buried her face in my chest, and all I could do was hold her, as if my arms alone could shield her from the storm that was coming. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but the truth was clear. Nothing in my life made sense anymore. And yet, as the lawyer's words hung in the air, a spark lit inside me. If there was another will, then maybe my husband hadn't abandoned us completely. But before you understand what really happened that day, and how one little boy turned my world upside down, I need to take you back to where it all began. Before death came for my husband, life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. I remember mornings filled with my daughter's laughter, her little feet running across the marble floor, her voice echoing through the halls of a house that never truly felt like home. He would scoop her onto his shoulders, parading her like a princess, while I pretended to curtsy, our small family lost in joy inside walls that often felt like they belonged to someone else. Because those walls also belonged to his family. Every painting, every crystal chandelier was a reminder of their wealth, and of my place as an intruder. To them, I was the outsider who had stolen their golden sun. Dinners at my in-laws' mansion were rituals of humiliation. My sister-in-law's fake smile, my father-in-law's cold silence, the way servants were instructed not to refill my glass until everyone else was served. Every gesture screamed, "You don't belong here." I tried to ignore it, but my daughter saw more than I wished. Once she whispered, "Why don't they like us, Mommy?" I kissed her forehead, promising she was loved. But deep down, I feared love wouldn't be enough. His sister once leaned close at the table, her perfume thick, her words sharper than glass. "You should be grateful," she hissed, "that he hasn't come to his senses yet." I bit my tongue until blood filled my mouth, while his hand tightened around mine under the table, silently begging me not to fight. But silence has a way of growing heavy. At night, I caught him in his study, papers spread across the desk, his voice low on secret calls. Whenever I asked, he kissed my forehead and said, "It's just business. Don't worry." But the tension in his shoulders betrayed him. And then the fights began. Not between us, but between him and his father. Through the oak doors of the estate, I heard the thunder of voices, "You can't rewrite what's written," his father roared. "You'll ruin everything if you insist on this." My husband stormed out that night, jaw clenched, eyes blazing with something between fury and resolve. "They want control," he muttered, "but I won't let them erase my daughter's future." I begged him to explain, but he only pulled me close, as if love could silence my questions. I should have pressed harder, should have demanded to know what papers he was fighting over. But instead, I chose the comfort of his arms, believing that love could shield us from whatever storm was gathering. I didn't know then that the storm would arrive too soon, that death would snatch him away before the truth was revealed, and that the secrets he tried to protect would explode in the most public, cruel way imaginable. It was a Tuesday. One of those ordinary mornings when you expect nothing but coffee, school runs, and routine. He kissed our daughter goodbye, told her she was his little star, and promised he'd be home for dinner. By nightfall, that promise was broken forever. The phone call came like a blade, an accident. Details blurred into static as my knees gave way. The floor rushed up, my daughter's voice echoing behind me. "Mommy, what's wrong?" How could I tell her her father's arms would never hold her again? The days that followed felt unreal. Black clothes, wilted flowers, hands pressing mine with empty words. "Be strong. He's in a better place." But none of them saw the hollow ache inside me, or the way my daughter woke each night screaming for him. I held her in my arms until dawn, her tears soaking my dress, my whispers failing to convince us both that he might somehow walk through the door again. Grief was heavy, but the weight of his family pressed even harder. His sister arrived the very next morning, smelling of expensive perfume, her heels clicking through my house as if she owned it. "I'll help with arrangements," she said, but her eyes roamed the rooms like a thief measuring her prize. At the wake, my father-in-law cornered me. His voice was low, but the venom was unmistakable. "Don't think his death changes anything. The estate belongs to blood, not outsiders." The word outsider hit harder than the coffin itself. I wanted to scream, to remind him that his granddaughter was right there, flesh and blood. But he turned his back before my voice found strength. Their grief wasn't for the man we lost. It was for the wealth they feared slipping through their hands. And yet, through the fog of mourning, I remembered the late-night calls, the fights behind oak doors, the papers he guarded so fiercely. Something told me he hadn't left us defenseless, that maybe he'd been fighting for us until his last breath. But fear gnawed at me too. What if those papers weren't enough? What if his family's greed was stronger than any truth he'd left behind? The questions haunted me, clawing at my chest with every sleepless night. I didn't know then that all those secrets would surface, not in whispers, but in the middle of a crowded church, and that the storm I feared was about to erupt in front of everyone. The church was drowning in candlelight, the scent of lilies thick enough to choke me. I sat in the front pew with my daughter pressed to my side, her little shoes dangling above the floor, her fingers wrapped around my sleeve as if letting go meant she'd disappear too. Eyes followed me everywhere, some full of pity, others sharpened with judgment. Every whisper stung, a reminder that grief didn't shield me from being an outsider in their eyes. Then the doors groaned open, and the world shifted. A boy stepped inside. No more than 8, his hair disheveled, his shoes scuffed as if he'd walked miles. Silence cracked into gasps. My daughter tugged at my dress, her voice small. "Mommy, who is he?" I had no answer. My father-in-law rose like a viper uncoiling. His voice struck the air. "So this is it, your husband's other child." The words ripped through me and the church erupted in whispers. He betrayed her. That poor girl has no place now. The room tilted. My daughter's grip tightened painfully. Tears welled in her eyes as if she somehow understood that her world was being stolen in front of strangers. I wanted to stand, to fight, but my knees felt like glass. Then came the venom. His sister leaned forward, her smile cruel, her voice loud enough to slice through the church. "Your daughter won't get a single cent. The fortune belongs to him now." She pointed at the boy like she was passing down a crown. My daughter's sobs broke me. She buried her face in my chest, but her little body shook with grief. How do you tell a child that her family just erased her? How do you protect her when the very walls are against you? The boy stood frozen at the aisle, his small fists clenched around his jacket. He didn't look victorious. He looked terrified. For a fleeting second, my rage cracked because I saw another child caught in a storm he never chose. Then, a cough, deliberate and heavy. The lawyer stepped forward, his black folder pressed against his chest. "Enough," he commanded, his voice slicing through the noise. "This matter will not be settled here." Murmurs rippled again, but his eyes swept the room, pausing on me, on my daughter, and finally on the boy. "There is another will," he declared. "Its contents will be revealed officially, before the court." Gasps exploded, but the lawyer's tone silenced them. My daughter trembled in my arms. The boy lowered his head, and I felt the ground shift beneath me. The funeral was only the beginning. The real war would be fought in the courtroom. The courtroom felt like ice, cold marble, towering walls, and a silence so sharp it carved through my chest. I sat with my daughter beside me, her tiny hand trembling in mine. Across the aisle, the boy sat stiff, a guardian's arm hovering over him like a claim of ownership. My father-in-law's glare burned holes into me. Beside him, his daughter leaned close, whispering poison that made her lips curl into smirks. To them, this wasn't about grief. It was about winning, about ensuring their bloodline's grip on a fortune they believed was theirs alone. "All rise." The judge entered, and the sound of chairs scraping the floor echoed like thunder. My heart pounded, each beat a hammer against my ribs. I prayed that the papers my husband left behind would not erase my daughter's future. The lawyer stepped forward, the black folder tucked beneath his arm like a weapon. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of judgment. "This," he said, "is the most recent testament of the deceased. It overrides all previous versions." Gasps cut the silence. My father-in-law surged to his feet, slamming his hand against the table. "This is fabricated. We already know who the heir is, the boy." His words ricocheted through the chamber, a roar meant to drown the truth. The lawyer didn't flinch. He opened the folder slowly, each page turning like the toll of a bell. "In this will, the deceased states that his estate shall be divided equally between his wife, his legitimate daughter, and his son born outside the marriage." The words struck like lightning. Gasps burst across the room. I felt my knees weaken. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter, and the boy's head lowered in silence. It wasn't just fortune inked on those pages. It was truth. Truth that could not be erased. My sister-in-law leapt to her feet, her face red with fury. "This is shameful! That child will not take what belongs to us!" Her voice cracked into shrill rage, but the judge raised his hand, demanding silence. The lawyer's tone never wavered. The deceased left letters and recordings to verify his intent. He wanted both of his children protected, and his wife named their guardian. The word guardian echoed louder than any gavel. Even in betrayal, my husband had chosen me. He trusted me to shield them both, our daughter and his son. My chest heaved, tears burning my eyes, but for the first time, I felt steady. Gasps rippled again, but now the shame wasn't mine. It clung to those who had tried to bury his will. The balance shifted in the room, and with it, a fire lit in my chest. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was fighting for justice. The lawyer's words sliced the silence, but the family still fought like cornered wolves. My father-in-law leaned forward, his face crimson with rage. "This is forged! My son would never disgrace us like this." Spit flew with every word, but desperation was louder than conviction. The lawyer didn't falter. From the folder, he drew a sealed envelope, the edges worn, the wax seal unbroken. "This is a handwritten letter from the deceased himself, verified and notarized." Gasps burst across the room. My chest tightened as the seal cracked, revealing lines of ink I recognized instantly. His handwriting, the curves of each word like whispers from the grave. The lawyer read aloud, "If you are hearing this, it means I am gone. I leave my estate not to divide my family, but to protect my children. Both of them." The word children exploded like thunder. Not child, children. Murmurs erupted, the courtroom trembling under its weight. My daughter's eyes filled with tears, and across the room, the boy's lip quivered as if he finally believed he wasn't forgotten. But the lawyer wasn't finished. He reached for a small recorder, pressed play, and static gave way to a voice I thought I'd never hear again. My husband's voice, strong, deliberate. I know I have made mistakes, but my children are innocent. I want them cared for equally, and I trust my wife to protect them when I no longer can. My knees weakened. Tears blurred my vision. Even in betrayal, he hadn't abandoned me. He had left me the role of guardian, the anchor of both children's futures. The sister-in-law screeched, "This is manipulation. We won't accept it." But the judge's gavel struck like thunder. "Enough! The will is valid. The estate shall be divided as written. Case closed." My father-in-law slumped back, defeated. His daughter covered her face, her fury twisted into shame. They had tried to bury his truth, but truth had risen louder than their greed. I turned to my daughter. Her tears had softened into hope. Then my gaze found the boy, alone, trembling. A child who had lost a father, too. He wasn't my enemy. He was part of the legacy my husband had left behind. I stretched out my hand. The boy hesitated, fear in his wide eyes. Then slowly, he reached back. Gasps rippled through the room, but I didn't care, because in that moment I chose to fight not just for justice, but for family. When the gavel struck for the last time, the echo felt like a heartbeat restarting. The war was finally over. But what I carried out of that courtroom was not just victory, it was survival, and the weight of 2 children's futures resting in my hands. I sat frozen for a moment, my daughter's hand in mine, the boy's small fingers trembling on the other side. The world around us buzzed with whispers, but inside me, silence roared louder than noise. We had been seen. We had been recognized. The fortune mattered, but only because it meant my daughter's name would not be erased. She was acknowledged, her place beside her father secured, and the boy, though born from secrets, was given the right his bloodline had tried to deny. The estates, the house, the businesses, they were divided. His family stormed out in silence, faces carved with fury and defeat. They had tried to bury his truth, but the truth had risen higher than their greed. For weeks after, whispers clung to me. Neighbors pitied, others envied. She inherited everything, they muttered. But none of them understood. What I carried was not fortune. It was duty, the burden of raising 2 children marked forever by one man's choices. At first, I couldn't look at the boy without feeling betrayal pierce me all over again. He was proof of secrets I never asked for. But slowly, I began to see more. His silence, his frightened eyes, the way he shrank at anger. He wasn't guilt. He was just a child. One night, my daughter placed her doll in his lap. "Daddy would want us to share," she said. My throat closed. Because she was right. Children don't inherit sins. Adults do. And we decide if pain becomes poison or the seed of something new. So I chose. I chose to see them both not as rivals, but as family. 2 lives bound by tragedy, by secrets, by a father who made mistakes but still wanted them protected. If the world tried to tear us apart again, I would fight harder. The scars remain. Some nights I hear his voice in dreams and feel the ache of betrayal wrapped in the memory of love. It's messy, it's complicated, but scars are proof that you endured, and endured stronger. As I watch my daughter laugh again and see the boy slowly learn to smile, I realize no inheritance could ever compare to this. Wealth can be counted, but love, acceptance, and justice, those are priceless. So I raised them both, not as halves, but as family. Because innocence should never pay for the sins of adults. And though money fades, the choice to protect them was the richest gift I could ever hold. Tell me, if you were in my place, would you have reached for that boy's hand? Would you have chosen family over vengeance? Or turned your back forever? Comment your truth below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that reveal the secrets families try to bury. Fortune fades, but betrayal carves scars no inheritance can ever heal.